What's going on, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. Point After Podcast, Coastal Carolina 2021 preview. If you didn't watch the video yesterday, we touched a little bit on Coastal Carolina and went very in-depth on the Sun Belt Conference. Probably one of our favorite conferences that we've previewed. There are tons of talent there, tons of NFL talent that will be drafted in April. But today we're sticking with Coastal Carolina, a little in-depth on 2020 season, looking at their 2020 schedule. Grayson McCall and rest of the roster. Matthew, as always, how's it going, man?
Going great, brother. Talking about this team is kind of just like watching them on TV. It's big and bright and it's blue, and it's right there in your face. Got a lot of things going for them. Got an entire army coming back for the team. We'll talk about that more detail later. But per usual, man, love talking football and excited about this one.
Yeah, so we'll start off with a quick schedule rundown for 2021, and then we'll come back and touch a little bit on their 2020 season. This team has a really, really, really good chance to go undefeated. I don't know what the over-under is on their wins this year, but if you're a betting fan, I'm taking the over. Start the season, Citadel, Kansas, both at home, at Buffalo. You have UMass and Louisiana Monroe at home. Travel to Arkansas State, travel to App State, and then you finish up with Troy, Georgia Southern, Georgia State, Texas State, and South Alabama. The world is in your hands at this point. You beat Kansas, who's not a good team, but they're a Power 5 win. That's what the committee looks at. You beat another independent school. Coastal Carolina at 12-0, 13-0 with the conference championships in a New Year's Six bowl. I don't think they have the strength of schedule to make the college football playoff by any means, but I definitely think we see these guys play on January.
I 100% agree. I think that the first three games are not as hard as their October schedule. I think they definitely can get a win over Kansas. And I don't think Buffalo, we touched on them a while back. I don't think they're going to be the same Buffalo team we saw last year, but nonetheless, they're a decent football program, and that looks good on a top 25, top 15 resume. But what catches me right here is October 7th, bye week, October 20th, October 28th, which will be Arkansas State. That'll be away, App State away, and then Coastal playing Troy at home. That three-game stretch is going to define their entire season, if you ask me.
I agree, but I'm going to disagree slightly. Looking at their schedule, they play Louisiana Monroe the week before they play Arkansas State. Okay, that's fine, but they play Arkansas State on Saturday. They turn around and they play Louisiana Monroe on Saturday. They turn around and play Arkansas State on a Thursday night. So you have a shorter turnaround. You play two tough games back to back. Then you have a bye week before you play App State, Troy, and Georgia Southern. So I think that 5 weeks right there, including the bye week, is the defining point in their season, like you said. So I agree, but I'm going to throw in that Louisiana Monroe on Saturday, 5-day turnaround, play Arkansas State on Thursday. I think that's gonna be a lot tougher than a lot of people realize.
Yeah, absolutely. October on the coast is going to be a month full of football. Exciting football, and might be heartbreaking football.
I could see them losing one of those games, and the thing is it's not like, okay, yeah, Louisiana Monroe is going to beat Coastal Carolina. It's like any 4 of those teams could beat Coastal Carolina. They're going to have to bring their A game every time they step on the field. Looking back to last year, though, starting off 11-0, toughest game was a 22-17 win over BYU in the regular season. They beat Troy by 4 in the Sun Belt Conference Championship, and then they lose by 3 to Liberty in the Cure Bowl, 37-34. And I believe that was the last second field goal, was it not? Or maybe they missed a field goal to tie it.
I thought they missed a field goal.
That may have been it. They were down by 3, kicked the field goal, and missed it, and Liberty won.
So I'm pretty sure their kicker was like damn near perfect the whole season, and then missed.
Yeah. Nonetheless, though, taking a look at their previous season last year, what kind of stood out to you the most? What are you looking forward to coming back this year? I think we can kind of spend a little bit of time on this because I feel like when we get to their schedule, other than the 4 games we mentioned, it's going to be win-win-win, not even close.
Yeah, I think Grayson McCall is phenomenal. I think he's probably going to be the best quarterback in this conference. If not, he's going to be in the argument. But what really stands out to me is the turnaround from this whole team. This team was pretty young last year. The previous 4 years, or 3 years, you go outside of 2020. You go 5-7, 5-7, 3-9 in 2017, and then you turn around. It's like boom, 11-1. Found yourself top 12 at some point. I think maybe. I'm not sure. I don't think they broke top 10. Maybe they did. I just don't think they did. But what stands out to me, man, has got to be the receiving core. Size compared to, I mean, that's like SEC, ACC size. Not sure on speed, but these guys combined for over almost 90 catches and almost 2,000 yards. So, going to be phenomenal. I look for a repeat last year. I think it's their conference to lose. And, defensively, just as much complements the offense.
Yeah, now is he a sophomore this year or is he a sophomore last year?
He's a sophomore this year. I think he's
Okay.
a freshman last year. Yeah.
Yeah, so not only that, he only threw 3 picks last year. I think he had 27 touchdowns, 28 touchdowns. In the air, he had 5 or 6 rushing, and then again, he only turned the ball over 3 times. That's pretty good out of a freshman. On top of that, you get all 5 starters back up front. That's huge. And you have enough time in the pocket to take care of the football and not turn it over, and you get all 5 of those big boys back. Like you said, the receivers are back. You get 2 really good running backs to come in and replace Marable from last year. Coastal Carolina's scary, man. And I mean, I hate that this is the year where they don't really have anybody non-conference to kind of prove it. Because Kansas is not that. I mean, they beat Kansas by 15 last year. I'm expecting probably the same result this year. But offensively, this team's going to be really, really good and really fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, you get an offense that averages right at 7 yards a freaking play. Your second downs are probably your best friend. First downs seem like an even better friend. You ask me, if you're averaging 7 yards a play and 450 yards a game, and you return just about everybody on the roster that played last year, you got to think the numbers go up. I mean, you just have to.
Yeah, offensively, I'd have to agree with that. Defensively, I could see them kind of staying around the same, maybe going, I guess, up, but in the wrong way. You know what I mean? Like giving up more points per game. And that's just because the Sun Belt, their offenses are improving. There's a lot of good offenses in the Sun Belt this year. I mean, there's a lot of talented defenses as well, but I think the Sun Belt has more improvement coming from the offensive side of the ball than they do defensively, collectively across the conference. Now looking at Coastal Carolina's defense, only give up 20 points per game last year. You come back with some of the top line defensive linemen, one of the best linebacker units, some of the best defensive backs, and Alex Spillum and DeJordan Strong, who combined for 9 interceptions. I mean, it's a defense that was damn good last year, and they're going to be damn good again this year. It's just the way it's set up. Their red zone defense could use some work. Other than that, they're pretty much flawless across the board. I think you touched on yesterday their front 7, how good they were defensively in the front 7. I mentioned the only thing they have to worry about is those guys stepping in and having an immediate impact on the pass rush. Other than that, they're really, really solid. I expect them to probably even lower that 20 points per game, maybe down to 17 or 18.
Yeah, and, talking about their defensive side of the ball, inside the red zone, doesn't necessarily complement the way the offense was inside the red zone last year, but nonetheless, they are not bad at all. So I think if you improve on especially turnovers inside the red zone last year, I think they had, how many, was it 20? How many turnovers you say total?
I'll do it real quick.
I think it's like 20.
I think I have their actual defensively. How many turnovers?
Yeah,
I've seen.
pretty much what I saw was most every turnover did not. They didn't really have any turnovers inside the red zone. So I think if you can create
25.
red zone turnovers, I think you're looking at bringing that point total down per game, and on top of that, establishing yourself as one of the best defenses from here to come in the Sun Belt Conference.
Yeah, I've got them marked at 25 turnovers last year defensively. So that's pretty good. That's almost 2 turnovers per game, and when your quarterback's only throwing 3 interceptions, it's even better. We ran through their schedule a minute ago. We can kind of touch on it. I think we'll probably spend a lot of time in that 5-week period that we mentioned. Starting the season on a Thursday night, September 2nd, right after we get back from Birmingham or Montgomery, Coastal Carolina plays Citadel. I think that could be a fun game to watch. Citadel sometimes has some games where they kind of show up, spurt something, make it interesting. I think Coastal Carolina wins it very handily, but I do think that's a game that might be somewhat entertaining.
Yeah, absolutely. And really any football can be entertaining. I think people get confused when I think it's something that's talked about a lot, and this is a team that you can very well make that comparison. Is well, you say they don't play. Excuse me. They don't play the teams Alabama plays, or they don't play the teams Florida State plays, or Texas, blah blah blah. But in football, anybody can beat anybody. You don't play a 7-game series. You don't play a, best of 3 or whatever other sports do. Anybody can beat anybody. They lost to Liberty last year, and I think me and you both mentioned at some point that Coastal Carolina was the better team. Better team don't always win. So for me, I think this team has to come out here and dominate the season. I think if, to be in a New Year's Six ball, I think they need to go undefeated, because with one loss, you'll be looking at a really good bowl game and a really, really good bowl game opponent. But I think, with their schedule, if they don't absolutely dominate the season, maybe a couple close games here and there, you could find yourself outside of that loop.
Yeah, I think so too. And to go on what you said, that's what I love about football. Like in basketball, or just for instance, we'll take this: the Alabama Clemson game in 2017 national championship. When was it 2017 when Deshaun Watson won the last play of the game? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you take that game for instance. That was a 4-point game, I think.
Pick play.
Yes, exactly. You take that play, take that out, Alabama wins that game. If you put those teams up against each other again a week later, 50-50 chance again at who's going to win. So it's not, I mean, you've always heard it's hard to beat somebody twice. I mean, you look at Alabama and LSU in 2011, 6-3 in overtime, and then Alabama shuts them out. They don't cross the 50-yard line, 21-0. Unbelievable. It's hard to beat anybody twice, and I think that's the beauty of football. Is just you have to show up and you have to be best, but you only have to do it that one day. You don't have to worry about winning series or sweeping or coming back from behind and winning 2 games or whatever. You just have to win that one game, and it makes all the difference in the world. But moving on to week number 2, they play Kansas. Again, I think I touched on it a minute ago. I think I see them winning by double digits, 2 scores at minimum. It's a home game too, so that'll give them another boost. And then the next week they play at Buffalo, who we touched on a little bit ago. We were planning on doing a specialized preview video for Buffalo, but kind of after evaluating their team, got away from it. And if that's any indication, I think Coastal Carolina takes that one handily too.
Yeah, and they have a pretty balanced offense altogether. One of the more balanced offenses in the country. Last year, over 2,000 yards passing, over 2,000 yards rushing. I think any replica of last year, you're looking at 1 loss, no loss on your schedule at the end of the season. I think it's that 5-week stretch. It all comes down to that 5-week stretch, and I know during that 5-week stretch, or I hope at least, that we will be talking and giving high praise to Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, they play UMass on September 25th, another home game, another home non-conference game. And then you get into that 5-week stretch that we've kind of talked about. So starting off, you have Louisiana Monroe, who are probably ranked in the top 25 or near the top 25 at this point. You get them at home on October 2nd. How do you see that game turning out?
I still, I'm gonna say Coastal is gonna win the game, but at the same time, you can make the argument that Louisiana Monroe could win the game. I think it would have to be one of those games that Coastal has played sloppy, especially offensively. And, I think the defense could play a good game and they still lose because I still think Louisiana Monroe puts up 15, 20 points. But with that being said, I don't think that's going to happen, though. I think it's would have to be a miracle for Louisiana Monroe. Um, I think they're just going to be too good. I really do. I'm going to stay. I'm on Coastal Carolina this year like I was Indiana last year. I think this team is conference-wise, it's their conference to lose. But a team like Louisiana Monroe could definitely slip in and beat them.
Yeah, I think this is a game that I think it's going to be a good game. I don't think it's a trap game. I'm looking at Arkansas State 5 days later as that trap game, but I think Louisiana Monroe is going to be probably a close game until the fourth quarter. Then Grayson McCall throws 2 late touchdowns, and the score is a lot worse than the actual game was. Like, you're looking at like a 24-23 game, and then Grayson throws 2 touchdowns, and they win the game 37-23. Something like that's going to happen, in my opinion. I think it's a really, really, really close game, and then TCU runs away with it late in the fourth. And then, like I said, going on to that trap game 5 days later, you're on the road. You're on a shortened week. This is where you get to where are you looking ahead to that bye week? You know what I mean? You're play ULM 6 days later. You're on a bye for 13 days. Like that's what you look for. It's in the middle of the season. I think if you get your eyes too far downfield, overlook Arkansas State, you're going to find yourself in a mess. I think Arkansas State keeps that one close. I don't think they win it, but I do think that's a very close game in Jonesboro.
Yeah, and one thing to add to that too is, a lot of reasons they won games last year, was because of their offense, but their defense didn't give over 30 touchdowns the whole year. If I'm not mistaken, everybody in the Sun Belt Conference gave up 30 or more. I had that somewhere. There's one other team, I don't remember if it's Lafayette, App State. One of those teams had about the same amount, but regardless, less than 30 touchdowns a year, and everybody around you that you're competing with is giving up more touchdowns. It says a lot about your defense, and that's the reason they won the conference last year. I think defense is ultimately who gets that stop. When does that stop happen? Turnovers, whatever it may be. Offense can do a lot of things, but I think defense is the one that is going to win you the games. And they return how many players did you say on defense?
9, I think. Don't have an exact number, but it says they return most D linemen, linebackers, and at least 2 in the defensive backfield. So I'll say at least 8.
Yeah,
based
regardless,
on the players I looked at.
Yeah, you've all preached, 6 or 7 is the magic number. I think to be a solid quality experienced team, you need at least 6 or 7 returning guys, and they have 8 plus, 7 plus for sure. So defensively, I think that's going to be the thing I watch and enjoy most about Coastal Carolina this year. I know their offense is going to be there. I'll look for them to improve statistically on what they had last year, but overall, I think defense is going to be my thing to watch for Coastal Carolina this year, and I think it's going to be their make or break.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. I did a little stat check, I guess. The absolute most touchdowns they could have gave up last year. This is no special teams touchdowns, no defensive touchdowns, no field goals or anything. Was 34. So That's pretty impressive. So I think you're definitely correct with your less than 30 touchdowns given up, because there's no way a team goes all year and doesn't score any. It's not offensively. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Next up, you have Appalachian State on a Wednesday night. So they play Thursday, bye week, Wednesday, Thursday. Kind of a weird schedule there in October, especially to be the games you're going to need to worry about most. But I like it. That's going to be all eyes on that one game. That's, let's see, October 20th. On the road at Appalachian State. It's a Wednesday night, 7:30 kickoff. Like, that game's going to get a lot of attention. There's going to be a lot of eyes on that game. I think coming off a 13-day break, you're going to realize the importance of that one game, because after that one you have Troy, and then it's smooth sailing from there to finish your season. I think Coastal Carolina comes out very ready to win that one and wins that one big.
Yeah, and same thing defensively. If they can stop the run, excuse me, if they can stop the run of Appalachian State, I think they find themselves in a perfect position to win the football game. If you can keep that team below 150 yards, a couple scores, and your offense is putting up 25, 30, 35 points a game, I don't see Appalachian State beating them through the air. If it comes down to a shootout, I think Coastal Carolina definitely has the edge in that one. But it's the run game, and this defense is what I think is going to be well prepared. And like you said, I think this is one of those games that they know, and I think by the time that point of the season gets here, they're going to know, like, hey, this game right here, must win, nothing else matters, have to do this one.
Yeah. And not only that, you touched on them stopping the run game. It's going to be the same thing next week when you go up against Troy. Troy's not going to beat you through the air. The only way Troy is going to beat you is through the ground game. And you're essentially, you use that bye week. A lot of teams use the bye week to focus on yourselves. In-house, that's what you do, but coaches, you get an extra bye week to game plan. And you're studying Appalachian State, you're going to be studying Troy because of how heavy both teams focus on the run. I think if you come out and you shut down Appalachian State, you're going to shut down Troy the next week. I just don't really see them giving them a lot of issues.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And, I think Troy's, like we said, they're returning all 11 guys on the defensive side of the football plus transfers.
Yeah.
That's got to be a flawless game, I think, offensively. And regardless of how you get it done, passing or running the ball offensively, I think that has to be a flawless game. You find yourself 2 turnovers, especially in the second half of the game, you could be looking at an L.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think on the flip side of that too, Troy's going to have a run game that can keep the ball away from Grayson. Their defense is going to shut Grayson down. They're going to get a few stops. Troy, all you got to do is take care of the football. You score when you have the opportunities to score. Keep the ball away from them. Don't turn the ball over. Your defense is going to keep you in it. If you have a shot in the fourth quarter, anything can happen, but you got to keep it close enough offensively and take care of the ball. They're going to force you to throw it. You're just going to have to make completions or find some way, somehow to establish the run.
Let's see, moving on now to, like you said, easy selling. Both Georgia teams fall in the next 2 weeks, November 6th, November 13th. November 6th, it'll be Georgia Southern. Let's say that'll be a away game, correct? And then Georgia State will be a home game on November the 13th. Both of those games, I think, kind of the same situation. Georgia Southern, a little better at running the football, not as good as App State or Troy, but nonetheless, I think if they can prove themselves against App State and Troy stopping the run, you got to suspect Georgia Southern's like, hey, maybe we need to pass the ball. I don't think that's going to be a game they struggle with, but nonetheless, it could be like you always say, a trap game. Very well could be, but I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I don't really see either one of those games being close. If they're close, it's going to be close for the first half, and then it's over from there.
Will those be Saturday games?
Yeah, they play Saturday, Friday at South Alabama before they go off to assumably the Sun Belt Championship on December 2nd, December 3rd, we're in there.
Where do they play that at?
At Mobile. I think it's the day after Thanksgiving, like Friday. But yeah, so like you said, Georgia State, Georgia Southern, back to back, should win those games pretty easily. They play Texas State, who at 2-10 last year. Texas State's going to put up some points, not against Coastal Carolina, and then South Alabama kind of in the same boat. You get Jake Bentley, might put up a few touchdowns. I don't see them scoring 20. Coastal Carolina should win those by probably a combined score of 80. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I agree. I think they outscore them 20 plus, 25 plus, all 4 of those games, as they should. But, that might be a good, few games you can get a lead early. You try to get the lead early. Let your younger guys, your players need to develop some depth going into the back 2 games of the season, hopefully being the conference title and then a New Year's Six Bowl.
Yeah, and then after that, assumably, I'm assuming based on our predictions we did yesterday, Louisiana Monroe faced them again in the conference championship, and that's where it comes back into play. It's hard to beat anybody twice, I think Louisiana has a better shot at beating them in the conference championship than they do on October 2nd. I'm excited to see that game. I hope that game happens. I hope we get a rematch. But at the same time, I also wouldn't be surprised if who am I thinking of? Arkansas State makes a run and wins the West. I can't remember if they were in the East or West Division, but it was Arkansas State that could possibly win the West Division and play instead of Louisiana Monroe. But again, that was that trap game I referred to earlier. That's another rematch. I think Arkansas State has a better chance to beat them the first time they play than if they rematch in the summer.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't know. I was trying to figure out the win totals on the year, and everything I'm seeing is saying 9.5. So, not betting advice, just an opinion. If it's 9.5, put your life savings on it.
Just an educated guess by guys who.
And I don't know if that's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if 9.5 is true, but if say it is, everything, put it all out.
Yeah. Don't bet the house, but
bet if you like come across windows and doors.
Yeah, if you come across some money that you don't know what to do with, the over/under on Coastal Carolina's wins this year, the over looks pretty good. That's all. Yeah. That's all we're saying. But do what you would. But yeah, so where do you see these guys finishing this year? New Year's Six Bowl, college football playoff, either. What do you think?
Given that they have a healthy season for the 20 of 22 guys that are coming back, which we hope every football team does, I could really see them slipping up one game. I really can. Where that comes in the season, I don't know. It could be Kansas. It could be right off the bat against Citadel. It could be in the 5-game month of October, like we've been preaching on. But final answer, I think I see them going undefeated, see them conference champions, and I see them in the New Year's Six Bowl. Who they play and if they win the New Year's Six Bowl, that we'll have to discuss or be discussing maybe towards mid-October, around that time. But I definitely see them conference champions. I think it's theirs to lose.
Yeah, I think at worst case you're working at a one-loss conference champions in Coastal Carolina, because the two teams that I think have the best chance of beating them during the season are in your opposite division. So for that reason, I think at worst case you're looking at a loss, 12-1 Sun Belt champions in Coastal Carolina playing in the New Year's Six Bowl. I looked up DraftKings. They do have Coastal Carolina at 10 over/under, minus 113 odds on no matter which one you take. And I also looked up Cincinnati because it's just a row above it. They're also at 10. So something we may need to talk about off camera, if you say it.
Yeah.
But nonetheless, I agree. I think we see Coastal Carolina New Year's Six Bowl. Probably, hear me out, Georgia. Peach Bowl. I don't know the bowl games and which ones are the playoff this year, which ones are not, yada yada. But I think Georgia, if they don't make the college football playoff, they're one loss to Alabama in the SEC championship. I could see them being a good fit for Coastal Carolina to play. The loser of the ACC championship could also be there, and then the loser of the Big 12 championship. I think that's one of those three teams that Coastal Carolina would play in the.
I think Coastal Carolina and Cincinnati would be a really fun game to watch.
Oh yeah, I'd have to agree. Absolutely. What would be really fun if both of those go in at 9 wins, so somehow they match up, both of them at 9 wins, and you've took the over on either one.
At least you're going to come out even.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have on Coastal Carolina.
Any individual key players? I think we both can speak for each other. Grayson McCall is a guy to watch on offense, but I'm going to take the entire receiving corps as some key players on the offensive side of the ball that I'll be watching. How you feel about it? You feel the same? You can go the same way with running backs.
Kinda. I'm going to go with Isaiah Likely, the tight end. I think just the way this offense is set up, run game-wise, you're going to see a tight end get a lot of action. I feel like offenses that have good run games, their tight ends get the ball a lot. Like the tight end's always open because just the play actions. There's a lot of play action passes in run-heavy offenses designed for tight ends. So I think Isaiah Likely is going to have a big year this year. And then, yeah, I'd have to agree with the wide receivers. But keep an eye on Reese White and Shamari Jones and see how they do replacing C.J. Marable's performance that he had last year.
Yeah, and on the defensive side of the ball, been talking about it. Front seven is really good. There's a lot of games that they're going to be relied on, especially when it comes to stopping the run. Defensive tackle C.J. Brewer, senior this year. Not a big guy, 6'2", 280, but he's an all-star. He's a returning all-conference player, and I think he finds himself draft eligible next year. He's going to be my guy to watch on the defensive side of football.
Yeah, defensively, I'm going to name two. I got Alex Spillum and DeJordan Strong. I think we touched on them yesterday. We touched on them again earlier today. Combined, I think they're going to play a big role in how well this defense. 9 interceptions last year. Combined between the two, I think you look probably.
Yeah, and not to mention also defensive end transfer Emanuel Joseph, who'll be a sophomore this year. Keep an eye on him as well. I think that defensive line is going to be something fun to watch.
Yeah, I touched on them having to replace their number one, or essentially their top 3 sack leaders last year. I think Emanuel Johnson and Amadou Fofana, I believe is how you say that. They're going to come in, have an immediate impact, and bring some success to this Coastal Carolina defense.
Nonetheless, though, Coastal Carolina, we here at TPA are expecting you to be conference champions, New Year's Six Bowl, come, let's say, Christmas.
We will most definitely be talking about Coastal Carolina a lot throughout the year, so if you're a Coastal Carolina fan, hit that subscribe button, go ahead and follow us on Twitter and interact with us a little bit. Really the whole point of this whole preseason stuff is just bring, 1, to get stuff on the record so that we can come back to it later, but 2, to bring light to the Group of 5 conferences that don't always get it. I know the Group of 5 guys do a good job at covering it, but that's about it. That's really it. You're not going to see ESPN, CBS, or anybody like that kind of cover Group of 5, so that's what we're here for. But, Matt, anything else before we close it out?
Per usual, my man, Sharpie S Gel, get yours today.
Amazon, Best Buy, Staples, Walmart, you name it. Buy your Sharpie S Gel pens, hit that subscribe button, follow us on social media, leave a like. I think that's it. I think that's all we got. And we will see you guys tomorrow with Independence, maybe Notre Dame, BYU, Liberty, one of those guys. Stick around, tell your friends. We'll see you guys tomorrow.